Hi, I'm Jim O'Connor from the Tucson Amateur Astronomy Association. Welcome to the 2021 Grand Canyon Virtual Star Party. Let's take a journey around the night sky. Since this presentation was recorded earlier, if you have questions or comments, please enter them in the chat window and we'll try to reply with an answer during this presentation. Right now, you see how the sky would look at the Grand Canyon National Park Visitor Center on the night of June 12, 2021 at 9 p.m., the sun having set an hour earlier. As we look to the north, the sky appears without guideposts to help us explore. We'll change that shortly and explore the markers we can use to guide our journey through our night sky. When the Cherokee look up at the sky, they see stars as spirits of people who have left us and spirits yet to be born. So we spend only a small part of our existence here on Earth, and we should make the best of our stay. We'll now explore three of our culture's sets of markers: the northern sky, the Milky Way, and the ecliptic. In 1929, to bring order to scientific astronomy, the International Astronomical Union decreed that stars would have their original Arabic names, planets would have their Roman names, and constellations would have their Greek or Latin names. Also, there would be 88 formal scientific constellations, and they would be used to divide up the night sky into manageable regions. These characteristics will help guide our exploration. We'll explore by going from the known to the unknown, starting with our first set of markers in the northern sky. We'll begin with a familiar marker, Ursa Major, the Great Bear. The constellation Ursa Major has a prominent asterism or grouping of stars we call the Big Dipper. While the Big Dipper appears as a scoop or a ladle to Westerners, to others it is called the plow or the ox cart, or even in Hindu lore, the elephant of creation. The two stars at the front of the ladle of the Big Dipper often are called the pointer stars and can be used to find Polaris by following them straight to Polaris. The North Star, it seems fixed while the sky rotates around it. Polaris is also the tail star of the Little Dipper, or the constellation Ursa Minor, or the Little Bear. You'll have to use some imagination to notice the Little Bear, as we only see the Little Dipper. And it's usually only the end pair of bright stars. Legend says the bears were terrorizing villages and were thrown into the sky by their tails. In a dark location, visible in Ursa Major are the highlighted feet, which are called deer tracks by some Native American cultures. Opposite the Great Bear is Cassiopeia, appearing as a big W or M, representing the vain Queen of Ethiopia. Jealous of her daughter Andromeda's beauty, because of her vanity and other evil acts, she's been chained by Zeus to a chair facing away from Olympus and forced to spend half of each day upside down. Next to Cassiopeia is her husband, Cepheus, the king of Ethiopia. In the Chinese culture, this grouping of stars is called the House of the Seven Kings. In our view from Earth, Polaris appears stationary as the center of rotation of the night sky. Nature isn't truly this way. The Earth's axis, like a child spinning top, only spins on its axis so the sky appears to rotate daily. But not only that, it seems to be moving in a great circle. So not only does the Earth spin on its axis, the axis makes a great circle in the sky. This circle of rotation center change is a 26,000-year cycle. Migration of the rotation axis star can be found by using the constellation Draco, the dragon, and the construction of the Great Pyramids almost 7,000 years ago. To have an afterlife in Egyptian cultures, a burial site needed two exits. One is to the pole star, a place of immortality where a star did not appear to move or rise or set. Permission to have an afterlife is also needed, and that required a second exit to their god of the afterlife, Osiris, Orion for us, in the opposite direction. The exits at the pyramids point where Thuban and Orion were about 7,000 years ago are no longer the position of pointing. Thuban and Osiris are no longer in the correct exit alignments. So many Egyptian spirits are wandering the sky, lost from their burial sites for about 19,000 more years until Thuban and Osiris are back in place. Let's look for two path markers for navigation. We'll slide the view to show them. If we poke a hole in the bottom of the Big Dipper, we find Leo the lion getting his head wet. Another path to follow is the arc of the Dipper's handle, called the arc to Arcturus. The brightest star in the constellation Boötes is the herdsman, who keeps the bears in the sky with the aid of his herding dogs, the constellation Canis Venatici. From Arcturus, we can speed straight on to Spica. Straight on to Spica, and that gives us the brightest star in the constellation Virgo, the Greek goddess of fertility. Our next set of markers is Via Galacticos, Greek for Milky Way, leading to the name galaxy for all such massive assemblies of stars. The Maya considered the Milky Way to be the root of the tree of life. We are looking into our home galaxy, a flat disk about 100,000 light years across, composed of flat arms. From above, it would look like a rotary lawn sprinkler. Our solar system is about a third of the way in towards the core in the Orion spur. In early June, the summer Milky Way rises along the eastern horizon, stretching from Cassiopeia in the north through the Sagittarius-Scorpius region in the south. Very rich in the stars of our Orion spur and the nearby Scutum Centaurus arm, with the arms separated by a dusty lane called the Great Rift. The Seminole see these arms as, and the dust band between them, as the arms of the Creator protecting his creation. Other cultures see the Milky Way as campfires of clan elders who have passed on and are looking over their former tribal members. The central feature of the summer Milky Way is the summer triangle. In the constellation, in three constellations that are so bright, the stars are visible from fairly bright city skies. The first star is Deneb, or tail. In the constellation Cygnus the Swan, also known as the Northern Cross. First Nations peoples in southwestern Canada call this constellation Niska the Goose, which announces the arrival of the migratory birds for trapping when it arises in the spring. Next, the next star is Vega in the constellation Lyra, the lyre or harp. This is an instrument of Orpheus that was placed in the sky by Zeus as a reminder for us to bring joy to each other. In Eastern Mediterranean cultures, they saw this constellation as the eye of God. The Maya thought that their original home was in Lyra and that the ships on white wings would someday come to bring them home. The third star of the triangle is Aquila, the eagle, completing the summer triangle of stars Deneb, Vega, and Altair, which actually stays visible until January, although rising 4 minutes earlier each night. Even under moderately bright city lights, squinting your eyes will bring out these tremendous 3 markers that highlight the main body of the Milky Way. So we go on from our northern Cassiopeia location down the Milky Way to the bright triangle in the path. At the southern end of the Milky Way lies Sagittarius, the Archer, and Scorpius, the Scorpion. Sagittarius will shortly be fully risen and appears to us as a teapot, with the very center of our galaxy just above the teapot spout. The tail of the Scorpion is not quite yet above the horizon at northern US latitudes, but it will be shortly. Legend says the Scorpius slayed Orion, and in Western folklore, the two are placed on opposite sides of the sky to remind us to separate our conflicts. So far, we have followed our night sky from the Big Dipper to Polaris, Leo, and Virgo, and then from Cassiopeia inward as we look all the way across our Milky Way to the summer triangle and then to the very core of our galaxy. Our final set of markers is the ecliptic. By the scientific name, the yearly path of our sun through the night sky as seen from the Earth. Because of the flat nature of our solar system, the ecliptic is also the Earth view of the path of all the planets. Our moon's orbit is only about 5 degrees tilted from the system disk. Thus, the ecliptic is the area where solar and lunar eclipses can be seen from Earth. If we start at the western end of the ecliptic, we can see that the sun has set some time ago. It's also set along with Mercury and the constellation Taurus. So we have the sun and Mercury right below it, and the constellation Taurus is gone for this season. Moving up the ecliptic, we can see Gemini, highlighted by the twin brothers, Castor and Pollux. It's at the horizon right now, and it's home to Venus. Moving up the ecliptic, we see that stellarium view has automatically started to rotate in any event, to help us avoid astronomer's neck as we start looking towards the overhead. Cancer, the next constellation up the ecliptic, is very dim and it's hard to see, even in dark skies, but it also just happens to be the home of Mars right now, followed by the constellation we found earlier, Leo the Lion. Leo has many bright stars and is not too difficult to find. And it features the backward question mark forming the lion's head with the bright star Regulus at its base. This star is one that does not follow the guidelines of an Arabic name. Rather, Regulus was the name used by 16th century astronomer Nikolai Copernicus, who thought this star was the ruler of the stars and needed a suitable name. The name Regulus was retained in honor of astronomer and astrologer Copernicus. Moving on over the top and down towards the eastern horizon, we have Virgo with the bright star Spica that we visited earlier, translated as a kernel of wheat, fitting for the goddess of fertility. In addition to the handle of the Big Dipper's arc to Arcturus and then speed onto Spica, another indicator of Virgo's location is the so-called martini glass that extends to the upper right from Spica. Here we have Spica and the martini glass. If you can find those, you won't need to worry about arcing from Arcturus and speeding on to Spica. Finally, for this night, we're getting to the final, just recently risen constellations of the ecliptic. Next along the line is Libra, Latin for weighing scales. the Scales of Justice, and Lady Liberty. However, there are two interesting stars in this constellation. The first one, Zubin esh-Shemali, and the second one, Zubin el-Ganubi. Those are translated as claw north and claw south. What do claws have to do with the scales of justice? Well, it turns out we're using Arabic names since 1929 for all the stars. Yet the Arabs didn't have anything in that region, in their culture, to be able to assign a name appropriate. Instead, they thought the scorpion went all the way from Scorpius, where it is right now, all the way up to the two claw stars. However, in 1929, when they were naming the stars in the International Astronomical Union, they declawed the scorpion so we could have a constellation Libra. Finally, for this night, Scorpius will shortly be totally above the horizon, and Sagittarius the archer, who really is drawn as a centaur drawing a bow, he looks like a teapot whose steam forms the summer Milky Way, and it's just making his appearance. Here we are looking straight into the core of our galaxy, about 30,000 light years away, centered on a 4 million solar mass black hole at the core. Saturn will be rising later tonight about 11 p.m., Jupiter about midnight, and Neptune about 1 a.m. The elements of the ecliptic have an alternative use. Several millennia ago in the Eastern Mediterranean, the position of the sun as it moved through constellations was used for military and municipal guidance. Later, the Greeks adopted the concept and greatly expanded it, giving us the name Zodiacos Kyklos. In ancient Greek, the cycle of the sun through living objects. But in modern Greek, it merely means any circle of animals. We now call it the zodiac. We have explored the use of markers to follow the sky we live under, the North Star and items around it, the Milky Way itself, and to the galaxy core, and the ecliptic, also known as the zodiac. We're back to our starting point. We've made quite a journey from the Big Dipper and the pointer stars to Polaris onto Cassiopeia and the view inside our home galaxy, ending with the arc of constellations of living entities that our sun visits separately every month. Thank you for joining in our journey through this one evening's offerings. Remember to look up whenever you can and perhaps make up your own stories. Please enjoy the rest of tonight's presentations.